Managing the finances and accounting is one of the biggest struggles I see that real estate investors are handling. Whether you are flipping properties, wholesaling, if you're a buy and hold with long, mid, or short-term rentals, no matter what your investing strategy is, it's really important that you're tracking the numbers to make sure that it's all worth it and to know what's working best.
Nailed it.
And yet that key part is often so challenging for investors. So what I'd like to do today is talk about the number one tool in the market for that, QuickBooks, and talk about how I use it as an investor, how other investors can use it, what its pros and cons are, so that if you're considering whether or not to get QuickBooks, or maybe you have it and you're not sure if you're using it right or what else you could be doing with it, this video is going to help all of those people, including you, figure out what QuickBooks can do and how to use it specifically for real estate investing. Before we dive in, if you want more strategies to optimize your real estate investment portfolio and help you get the systems in place so that you can continue to grow and scale your portfolio without spending more time, head on over to adriennegreen.com and download my Freedom Blueprint. It walks you through my 10 starting off systems that I got in place that really helped me go from overwhelmed to organized and scaling. Let's start with, why are we even talking about bookkeeping software? Why do investors need it in the first place?
Why?
Big picture, macro view. We are real estate investing in part because we want to make money, whether that's cash flow, whether that's building equity, whether that's, a legacy of financial success you want to pass down to your children. Part of it is money, right? There can be other parts of making the world a better place, helping people with fabulous homes, giving people great places to vacation. There can be other heartwarming reasons as well. And yet at the end of the day, we're going to spend a lot of our time and energy in this field of real estate investing, and we need it to have a financial return as well, because money is a way to measure energy and effort and success, right? That's the thing. And so bookkeeping software is how we track that money, right? We need to track what's coming in, what's going out, and we need to categorize it effectively so that we can do analysis and we can figure out where are we getting a good return on investment and where are we maybe losing money. And the great thing is that when you use QuickBooks, you can start to track things easier. You can use a lot of automations and you can have someone else help you, like a virtual assistant. So a lot of work is off your plate, and you're going to be able to get a lot more data to figure out what's working and what's not. Now, if you are just starting out, you may be working with just like a notebook where you're writing things down, or you may be working with a spreadsheet. That's where I find a lot of people start, is like an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, and you're tracking all your income and expenses there. And that's a good place to start. It is giving the basics to your accountant for tax season, and yet it's really not allowing you to do some of these deeper analytics and really figuring out what works and what doesn't. Plus, it's super manual. And what got you here is not going to get you there. Doing this very manual accounting process is not going to allow you to grow and scale and to get yourself out of it so you can spend your time in your top 20%.
Stop. Stop it. Stop.
So using something like QuickBooks is really going to help with that. It's going to eliminate all that spreadsheets. It's going to make it really easy to keep track of receipts and put them into the system. It's going to make tax season really easy. It's going to make applying for other loans really easy because you can just print out a P&L and anything else the lender needs. And it's going to allow you to use a virtual assistant or someone else to do this admin operations busy work so you don't have to. Now, why is QuickBooks so popular? Why is accounting nearly synonymous with QuickBooks? Well, they've dominated the industry. It's one of the most widely used accounting softwares. It's super prevalent. And part of that is accountants. And I don't know the chicken and the egg. I don't know what happened first, but now that it is the dominant software, it's what accountants want their clients to use a lot of times. I've spoken with several real estate investor focused bookkeepers and accountants, and they either have a strong preference for their clients using QuickBooks or some of them even require it. So while Intuit is not my favorite thing, and I don't love the customer support or lack thereof at QuickBooks, it is the industry standard. It does have a lot of robust features, and it is often where people go. So that is what we're talking through today. If you are new to QuickBooks or you are not sure that you're using it to its full potential, let's walk through some features of QuickBooks that are great for real estate investors. First is how they can automate income and expense tracking. What I love is I have all of my bank accounts and my credit cards linked in QuickBooks, and the transactions are automatically pulled into my QuickBooks. I am not manually inputting every transaction or any transaction, really. So that's the first level of automation, is all your transactions are automatically pulled in there versus if you're using a spreadsheet, you're inputting them manually. The second thing is, along with how it auto pulls, QuickBooks kind of learns, right? So if you have this transaction from Home Depot and you often are categorizing it as a supply, after a few times, QuickBooks is automatically going to learn that, and it's going to draft that for you. It's going to put in what you most commonly put in. So you're just going to need to go in, maybe attach the receipt, and click confirm and get it all done. So there's a lot of automation there that really saves you or your virtual assistant or your bookkeeper a lot of time in putting those things in there that you're not getting if you're not using something like QuickBooks. The second thing is that it has a very customizable chart of accounts. That means you can have property specific categories. You can break things down. Like if you want to start tracking how much you're spending, let's say you're flipping or you're doing a lot of burring and you want to track how much you're spending on like lumber versus drywall versus tile or something like that. You can do a lot of those breakdowns in the chart of accounts. You can get as granular as you want. And if you are big picture and you're like, whoa, the thought of that is overwhelming me, you don't need to do that. You could also just keep, hey, this is supplies, and that's fine as well. There's that flexibility and that option. It's a very robust system, so it lets you get as specific as you want, which really gives you a ton of data to analyze and track, or it allows you to stay really general if you're like, dude, I just want to have my books done before the extension period for my taxes, okay? That's possible as well. Another thing I love about QuickBooks personally is the profit and loss reporting or the income statement. You can really easily pull up this P&L and you can see, as long as you have your transactions up to date in QuickBooks, you can see how profitable are you for this time period. And you can compare different time periods. So you can compare year to date this year versus year to date last year, or you can compare Q1 this year versus Q1 last year. Or you can compare Q2 this year to Q1 this year and things like that. So it's really easy to see different trends on the profit and loss. And another aspect with profit and loss, and I'm going to touch on this specific aspect, I think probably several parts because it's really powerful, is I use the classes option in QuickBooks, which is where you can have different classes or groups, right? So you have all your transactions. And what I like to do with classes is I have a class per property. And then I also have a general property management class for transactions that are not property specific. But that way I can track my profit and loss per property very easily. So if you have 123 Main Street and that's a flip that you did, you can put all your transactions that happened with 123 Main Street into that class, and then you're able to see how profitable that flip was. And let's say you then do 456 Banana Street. You can have another class that's 456 Banana Street. You put all the numbers in there, and then it's really easy to compare how did your flip on 123 Main Street do compared to your flip on 456 Banana Street. And same thing with long-term or short-term or mid-term rentals as well. You can have each property be its own class, and that way you're able to really see how that specific property is doing. I like that feature a lot, and I use that to pull up like the profit and loss and also the statement of cash flows to see the actual cash flow that I'm getting from that property. Another feature that you could use in QuickBooks, I will say I don't do it here, and yet it's possible, is invoice and rent collection. You could send invoices and collect payments directly through QuickBooks. And you can also use third-party tools like Buildium as well if you prefer that. So if you want to have all the things in one place, you can also send invoices and collect payments such as rent through QuickBooks. Mileage tracking for property visits. So you can track your mileage. If you have a car that you're using for business and you're having a mileage expense, you can track that mileage very easily in QuickBooks, including in the phone app. So you can have the phone app, you can run mileage in there when you're going places and very easily track it in there. I think you just turn it on and it like automatically catches it and things like that.
Here's a word from our sponsor. If you're a real estate investor, you know how overwhelming managing tasks can be. Workergenics offers full-service virtual staffing solutions to help lighten your load. As a start, they're giving away a free Delegate or Die checklist listing 100 tasks you as a real estate investor can delegate to a VA. This guide helps you focus on what truly matters. Visit workergenics.com/freedom blueprint to download it today. That's WORKER GENIX.com/freedom blueprint to get your free checklist and start delegating today. And now let's get back to the show.
So that is an option as well if you're tracking your mileage. You can do it where it totally automates it, and that makes people's lives a lot easier. You could also do it manually if you wanted. And then another feature, like I kind of talked about before, a lot of our bookkeepers and accountants love QuickBooks. That is their standard. And QuickBooks really has tax-friendly, CPA-friendly reports. Often your bookkeeper or your CPA can have direct access. They can pull exactly what they need. You're not needing to send it to them. So it really lessens your workload. Again, your bottom 80% stuff that keeps the business run happens automatically, and you can stay in your top 20%. And then the final feature that I think it's important to know about as a big picture is that they have multiple plans at different prices for different needs. So that is one way that QuickBooks can grow with you, is you can start with a simpler plan at a simpler price point, and then you can upgrade your plans as you need more features or as your business grows. So that is something to keep in mind. You don't have to get a super expensive one right away. Let's dive into how specific real estate investors would use QuickBooks and where the pros would be for them. So first, let's say you are a long-term rental investor. The great thing about QuickBooks is it's just making all of the financial transactions that you do have very easy to track, right? They're automatically being pulled. They're suggesting their common categorizations. You can put it in there, and it's very easy. The other thing is, again, like I said before, you can use classes per property to keep things organized and have that higher level of analysis. And what I'd highlight for long-term rental investors is when you're buying more doors and you want to have your paperwork for the lenders, again, it's so easy to just pull the updated finances, whatever they want, like typically the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. You can really easily pull that in QuickBooks, save it as a PDF, and send that off to your lender. So very easy for the long-term rental investor to track everything in there and get the data they need to figure out how their properties are doing. Second, your short-term rental or mid-term rental investors, it's going to function a lot of the same way. You can connect your bank accounts, so when you're getting payments from Airbnb or VRBO, those are automatically getting pulled into QuickBooks, and again, they're automatically being suggested how to categorize them, and you can go from there. You can also separate out things like your guest fees, your cleaning costs, and your maintenance expenses as different categories, and also by property if you want. So if you really want to know, hey, where's my money going on these properties? I have different expense categories for cleaning fees versus maintenance fees and all of that, so I can see where exactly my money is going and where it's going on each property. Now, let's say you are a flipper or you're a BRRRR investor where you're handling those renovations. This is where you could really get granular if you want a lot of data to figure out what's working and what's not. You could have these different expense categories for whatever you want to track in terms of different expenses that you have, so you can see, how much are you paying for, let's say, an electrician, or how much you're paying on lumber. And also maybe you're doing houses in different markets, right? Because you can have classes per house. You could see, hey, overall, and you can even, group them together. You can say, how are my properties doing in the Cleveland market versus how are my properties doing in the Chattanooga market? And you can look and see if maybe labor is costing you a lot more in Cleveland than it is in Chattanooga or something like that. It's giving you the data where you can start to see these trends and lessons learned, and that gives you the data to pivot and to be more profitable by changing your strategy. Here's my honest take on the pros and cons of using QuickBooks. The pros is that it automates bookkeeping and it saves so much time. You automatically import transactions, you reduce manual data entry, which makes it faster and it makes it more accurate. Whenever I can have data entry done automatically rather than by a human, I know that I'm lessening the chance of human error. So that's one of the other things I love about having it pulled automatically. Saves time, lessens the chance of errors. Another pro is that it's very highly customizable, right? You can use different classes, you can add different categories, you can really tailor it to your specific business, your specific type of real estate investing, and see the numbers that are important for you in your business. The third thing that I love about it is that it scales as your business grows. There's no need to start with this and switch to another system. Switching systems is a pain, and especially with a bookkeeping and accounting, I often want historic numbers like past years so I can compare. And so I really don't want to have to switch systems. And that's where I love with QuickBooks, you can start affordably when you've got a couple doors, and then you'll have that data for when you grow. You can look at that historic data and it's all in one place. Another pro is, of course, the easier tax preparation. Your accountant is going to love you if you're using QuickBooks. It's going to make it easy for them. And then another pro is, so many real estate investors are really detailed oriented. They want to know the details. They want to know all the minutia and be able to evaluate it. And with QuickBooks, you can. And that's a huge, huge pro. And the final one that I love about QuickBooks is that it really is easy for you to use a virtual assistant or a bookkeeper when you're using QuickBooks, and it's using their time well. I have found 99% of entrepreneurs and investors are behind on their bookkeeping unless they have someone helping them out, unless they are paying someone to process those transactions for them. Even as much as QuickBooks automates, you've got to go in there and you've got to confirm, yes, this is correct. Tweak it when something's different. Maybe you weren't buying supplies at Home Depot that time or something like that. You need to be able to go in and just give that real life check on it, or you need someone to. It doesn't need to be you. And so what I love about QuickBooks is when someone starts using QuickBooks, that typically opens the door to them having someone else work on their bookkeeping. And that means their bookkeeping is going to be up to date. And it is so, so powerful. I know I've made other videos before about it's so powerful when you know your numbers right now, not your numbers 3 months ago, the last time you updated your books. So the pro is it's the first step in having up-to-date books. Now the cons, nothing is perfect. The first con I would say is that it can be a steep learning curve for beginners. Like a lot of programs that are really robust, it can be overwhelming at first. I get it, okay? I have a degree in finance, and even when I started using QuickBooks, was like, I have no idea what all of this is, right? So I get it. The nice thing is they do have like a Q&A section. There are a lot of videos about how to use stuff in QuickBooks, and you don't need to use every feature right away. If you just started by getting all your transactions in there and categorizing the income and the expenses, that would be a huge, huge, huge leap forward for 99% of investors. So don't stress out about like the really extreme use cases or like these really complex situations. Most of what you're doing is going to be easy, but still it can be a steep learning curve and it can be overwhelming at first. Second thing that can be a con for some people is it's not designed specifically for real estate investing. It lacks built-in property management tools. And so again, you can customize it to be whatever you want. And yet that does involve you signing on to take on the work to do that. It's not just plug and play ready for real estate investors. Third, the subscription costs can add up. Even though they allow you to start at more basic models, I think all of the subscriptions are expensive. They often offer a like 3-month trial period at like a 50% cost, but then when it goes to the regular cost, it's not cheap. It is definitely an investment. The thing is, it's the industry standard and it's super robust. And so I've just found that it is worth the money. And then the last con is if you really have 1 or 2 doors and you're not looking to grow, it may not be worth it for you, right? It may be more complex and more expensive than you need. And there may be a free option like Stessa or Wave apps or something like that that you can use that'd be a better fit if you're really like, I've got 2 doors and I want to stay at 2 doors. No need to overcomplicate things if you're not looking to grow and scale. So overall, who should use QuickBooks? Investors with multiple properties or growing portfolios would be well served to use QuickBooks. Whether your multiple properties are properties that you're wholesaling or flipping, or you're doing buy and hold, whatever that looks like, or BRRRR, if you're dealing with multiple properties in a given year, QuickBooks is probably the way to go. If you instead have 1 or 2 doors and you're just staying there, then QuickBooks is probably overkill for what you need, and you can probably find something else that would be a better fit. Now that you know everything about QuickBooks, remember, if you want more strategies to optimize your investment game, head on over to adriennegreen.com and download my Freedom Blueprint so you can get started on leveling up your portfolio while leveling down your workload today.